Well, for more on that story, we're joined by the Gauteng Copter MEC, Lebogang Maile. Good evening, Mr. Maile, and thank you so much for your time. I'm really keen to know that just, a cursory look at the findings of this report, one can pick up multiple issues that had been previously raised in different reports of the auditor-generals, the red flags that have been raised over the years. What has come out of it that we didn't already know?
Good evening, and thanks for having me. One of the issues we dealt with during the day was that problems that are there in the municipalities, they from time to time take a different turn, and they are of a different nature. So it's not given that if you know that there is this problem, therefore you will have a solution to it without proper diagnosis. So the report is helping us to firstly confirm that yes, indeed, some of the problems have been there for some time, but secondly, make us understand the nature of the problems, because even municipalities are unique, and therefore the report also goes into each municipality so that we are able to deal with those issues systematically and in a decisive manner.
Mr. Maile, when we look at the reports of the Auditor-General, they are very extensive in terms of where the weaknesses in municipalities are. We just heard Dr. Sidney Mufamadi talking about lack of capacity of officials when it comes to providing oversight. That is an issue that has come up consistently, almost in every municipality where there are issues. The Auditor-General over the years has raised some of those issues. So again, what has come out of today's report that has shed new light, that has shed new insight into the state of municipalities that we didn't already know?
Yeah, look, the Auditor-General's report, in most cases, is limited scope. So it will deal largely with your financial matters and compliance. But when you look at this report, it's comprehensive, and it deals with about 5 interrelated matters, financial viability being one of them, governance, public participation, issues of service delivery. So this report is comprehensive, and it will help us to deal with the matters in a systematic manner, because some of the issues have been there for a very long time. They are entrenched, they are systematic. So in dealing with them, we should be able to have an integrated approach, and that is why the report will also help us working with
what does that practically mean? What does that practically mean? And how different will the implementation of previous reports, especially those that are underperforming with municipalities that have become dysfunctional, how different is the application of recommendations about those municipalities going to be versus what you will be doing out of this report?
Well, look, as I've said, firstly, that the report is comprehensive. So that's the first thing. But the second thing, we would have an institutionalized approach in dealing with this issue, meaning that in all our plans, we will be able to demonstrate what is it that we're doing. And that's why we also have an implementation plan. But we also have a situation where we've already started, by the way, in how we support municipalities. Because remember, we don't run municipalities, and there shouldn't be that confusion. Municipalities are run by council. In terms of the law, there is a council which has got a legislative and executive authority. What the Constitution requires from us is that we must support, and where things goes wrong, we intervene. So that has to be understood properly. So we will then be able to, in the process of providing support as a provincial government, not just as Cooperative, working with national government, be able to intervene based on this systematic approach that we are taking.
But shouldn't we have been here years ago? Because the state of decay that some of these municipalities are in didn't happen overnight. And one would think that the approach of government in resolving some of these problems has been systematic, that there has been coordination amongst the different spheres of government, and that, quite frankly, your department is well aware of these problems. So I'm struggling to understand what happens differently now that this report is out versus what, your department has been doing all along.
Well, you're right that some of these problems are historic. Take Mfuleni case, and maybe because it was raised today. If you look at the problems, there are both subjective and objective problems there. For instance, if you look at ISCO, which is a steel, metal, what is this metal company, which used to hire about 40,000 people there. So let's be practical now, because you understand practical. They would have hired 14,000 people, and over years, since 1998, for instance, there's objective economic situation which has led to a situation where the company is probably closed down now. So what it means is that about close to 140,000 people who are being fed by this 14,000 employees are now not having a reliable breadwinner. It means now the breadwinner is not able to pay for services to the municipality, amongst others. So that's why I'm saying there's objective and subjective matters, and we need not to be mechanical, because the situation in our municipalities, as I've said, you might make an example about financial challenges, but when you talk of financial challenges, that's a broad subject matter. What exactly is it? The systems? Is it the revenue generating capacity? So it's broad, and that's why you don't use common sense to resolve complex problems. So that's why we engage.
Sorry,
hang on. I gave you a chance. Hang on, you'll come back. That is why you must balance between theory and practice, because if we were to use common sense and say there's just financial problems, what is the nature of those financial problems? The nature of financial problems in Tshwane are not the same as the nature of financial problems in another municipality. But you must understand the nature of those issues, and that is the exercise we're engaged in, so that you don't just go around saying there's financial problems, but what kind of financial problems? If you go from one municipality to the next, you'll understand. In fact, if you read the report, you will actually have that appreciation and understand that every municipality, there is specific issues that are raised. They might all appear like financial problems. They might all appear like revenue generation issues, but the problems are different from one municipality to the next. For you to address them, you must be able to understand them.
Mr. Maile, unfortunately on this one, I'm going to have to disagree slightly, because, from just the auditor-general reports that are available from one municipality to another, you do actually get a level of detail that highlights what's the issues, whether in revenue collection, and they're not the only ones that conduct this report. And so I think the point that I was really trying to understand was beyond this report.
I'll come to that point. Let me help you. I'll come to that point. Let me help you. When the Auditor General says there is irregular expenditure, and the value of irregular expenditure is this much, but the Auditor General will go into the detail and say, for instance, in Tshwane, the person who was supposed to buy a iPad, they bought an iPad which is not specified in the terms of reference. So what it means is that that person did not follow or use their terms of reference, for example. Then they will say, in Johannesburg, a person was supposed to buy a certain brand of water, but they bought a different brand. So you see, it's a regular expenditure, but you must understand that you're dealing with two different products and all that. And I've tried by all means to simplify it for you so that you understand why we have this kind of exercise. What happens next? What happens next is that we must engage the Minister of Cooperative, because there are issues which will require. For instance, one of the issues the report say, and maybe this is one of the perhaps is an issue that has been there and maybe it has not been raised sharply, is that the Financial Management Act that is there, which governs municipalities, in certain instances it's not flexible, is making it difficult for service delivery, and the report says let's look at it. So you will need the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Cooperative to be able to amend this, because it affects the whole country. But we will also have to say, working with the municipalities, which aspects already, based on what reasons, and we'll also have to consult even broadly, even the AG, and say, these are some of the issues and all that. So the first thing we have to do is to engage with all the stakeholders, including the municipalities, national. Today we are the president of SALGA, which is organized local government, who has said, as SALGA, they're part of this process, they support it, and in fact, this report will help to facilitate a kind of necessary discourse at the national level.
All right.
We have different stakeholders and sectors. We had Dr. Siti Mufumadi today, who's in the academia.
Sure.
We need them. We're already saying, how are we going to help work the universities, for instance, in particular UJ, to institutionalize this kind of work and not just do it once in a while and all that.
All right, Mr. Maile, we're going to have to leave it there for tonight. Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs MEC in Gauteng, Lebogang Maile.